Our world today is full of differing views, voices that divide us and pull us apart. Some say our hope has become nope. Yet it is clear we need to come together because there's nowhere to run. Each of us on this one earth is with everything under the sun.
You may be seated.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this joyful event, and also welcome to Ohev Sholom Temple. My name is Jennifer Rubin. I am the cantor here, which for those of you not so familiar with Reform or with Jewish clergy, that is a clergy position much like a rabbi. I handle lots of the music and the education in the temple. It is an honor for me to, as the clergy here, to host this event here. Because it really aligns with so much of what it is that Reform Judaism is about, that being radical inclusion of everybody. On the front of our building, it says a house of prayer for all people, and that is something that we deeply mean. It's a goal for us and something that we strive to live by. And so I would like to open tonight with a blessing for pride. Mekor HaChayim, source of life, you have blessed each of us with your spirit. In your wisdom, you have made each of us a unique treasure. Ma'ayan Chayenu, wellspring of our lives, cause us to flow with courage, strength, and compassion to live our stories openly, proudly, and joyfully. Shekhinah Shel Ahava, presence of love, you embrace us with your love. May we embrace ourselves, our partners, our lovers, our friends, our children, our dear ones, with the power of your Ahava Rabbah, your unending, boundless love. Ruach HaShalom, spirit of peace and wholeness, open our eyes to the gifts and blessings we offer and receive from each other. Open our hearts to welcome each other fully and truly. Open our hands to embrace, to support, to lift each other, begilah, berina, beshalom, uvreut, with joy, with song, with peace, and with deep friendship. Today, as we celebrate renewal, pride, community, let us walk together with strength, with compassion, and with love. Nevarech et ma'ayan chayenu tekadesh utsameach otanu. Amen. We bless you, wellspring of our lives. May you fill us with joy and with sanctity. Amen. Amen. Is this not for the live stream?
Thank you, Cantor Jen. It is an honor for us to be here in this space as well. My name is Reverend Mark Bird. I'm the pastor at New Life Metropolitan Community Church and the convener of the Hampton Roads LGBTQAI+ interfaith group. And we are truly an interfaith group of people of faith from across Hampton Roads. We have folks from the Judeo-Christian traditions, from Unitarian, from pagans, from Druids, all across the board. And we give each other permission to speak from our own backgrounds without trying to proselytize, convert, or steal sheep. I jokingly say I have some sheep I'll trade once in a while. But in all seriousness, it is great to be able to come together in our diversity and to celebrate that. In fact, this is our 10th such gathering. And so this evening we'll also be celebrating that. But you notice we sang as we came in, the procession of the faith leaders coming in, lift every voice and sing. And we're only 2 days away from celebrating Juneteenth and knowing that we have to relearn perhaps some of the narratives that we've grown up with. And so it's important for us to hold each other as the divine and as people of faith as we hold each other in our moments tonight. I want to welcome and in your program, let me say this first, that in your printed program, and I was getting some kidding from our other faith leaders because I won't tell you what time in the morning we typed this program that you have. Our theme, it was supposed to be, and is, everything under the sun, but in the printed program it says everything under the rainbow, which I think is appropriate, though, for our community as well. Is it not? All right, it is. It is. And so the rainbow of our interfaith groups on the screen, I think you're going to see in your program. And those are a live stream. We'll see as well the faith groups that are participating and supporting our efforts to come together. And we do this every year, usually the Tuesday before Pride Fest. And so whichever month we're doing Pride Fest here in Hampton Roads, which Tuesday is when we come together. You notice above me is a rainbow sun, a rainbow orb. Not rainbow, it is a sunflower. Where did I get, the rainbows really have an effect on me tonight, isn't it? We stand in solidarity with not only the people of Ukraine, but also other peoples across this world and across our planet that are facing violence and all kinds of travesties that we can only imagine. And so in our hearts, and we're going to talk about moving beyond thoughts and prayers tonight. And we'll be challenging ourselves. But you'll hear a number of things. We're going to do reconnect, just to be back again and not just be purely live stream. And welcome to those of you who are joining us by live stream, or if you're watching it later in the week. And you can share this. It's being live streamed through the New Life Metropolitan Community Church Facebook page. And once it's live now, you should be able to share that to friends and neighbors. So please feel free to do that. It's also be recorded for those who want to see it later. But just to be able to reconnect in person is so very, very important. And I wonder, in addition to the faith groups that were listed, do we have other faith groups that are not listed on the program that are just here tonight? Please feel free to stand up and just tell us who you are if we do. Or if you're joining us by live stream, you can type in the comments on Facebook Live and let us know that way as well.
I'm here from First Lutheran of Norfolk.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Yes.
I'm here from Beth Haverine in Virginia Beach.
Awesome. Delighted to have you here. There's always a place at the table in our interfaith gatherings or any of our, the only requirement to be part of our Hampton Roads LGBTQAI+ interfaith group is that you either be part of the community or a supporting ally of the community. And so without further ado, I'm going to ask James Hermanson Parker to come and lead this section that we're calling Reconnecting with the Community. James, thank you for being here tonight.
Part of reconnecting with our community over these last few years, as we've experienced tremendous tragedies, the last 2.5 years of the COVID pandemic, we've experienced so much of the loss. We've lost people, we've lost the normalcy of our lives. And we'd like to take this moment to memorialize that, to remember those that we've lost, whether it be people in our own lives, people in our communities. I would be remiss if I didn't mention some of the people that have moved us, you know, from a musical standpoint with Stephen Sondheim, from a actress and movie standpoint, you know, we all lost at the very end of last year, we lost Betty White. But we've lost so many other people that have touched us individually and collectively. So we want to take that time to remember those people that we've lost, but also the things that we've lost. You know, high school graduations that we've lost that weren't normal for these last few years. This was the first time this year that we were able to see and actually participate. Our high school students and college students were able to graduate and walk those important steps. But also those other smaller milestones of birthday parties and weddings, but also funerals. I had a very close friend of mine in 2020, we couldn't have the funeral for 4 months because we couldn't have gatherings of larger than 10 or gatherings at all. So we had to wait 4 extra months to have a service to remember this person's life. But memorials aren't always just about remembering the things we've lost. There's also about the things that we can be excited and happy about, and bringing us together again. Some of the things that when we were planning this, the things that we were very happy about over these last few months, we remember we were all enthralled by Amy Schneider and how continuously she was winning on Jeopardy. And each night we were watching to see, is she going to continue to win? We watched excitedly as Ariana DeBose won an Oscar this year, being the first openly lesbian to win an Oscar. We were very excited as MJ Rodriguez won a Golden Globe. So there are things that we're excited about. We were very excited when we had a new press secretary who is an openly lesbian African-American woman. So not only does she meet she's an intelligent person and nothing to do with her sexuality, but the fact that she is an intelligent person. And so those are the things we wanted to celebrate. And there's so many more things that were happening around our community that we want to celebrate. We want to be proud of those things, to bring back, to help us come back together. So with that, I will move on to Reverend Eileen.
Good evening. I'm Eileen Walsh, and I'm the rector of St. Christopher's Episcopal Church in Portsmouth. And as I am the rookie of the group, I get to ask for money. The planning committee for tonight's service would really like to thank Ohaf Shalom for their gracious hospitality and Cantor Jen. And as many of you know, this service is totally self-funded, and we all need to help with the cost of security and materials for the service. We ask that you please give as you are able, so that we may continue to offer this inclusive service. And during the offertory, as we sing This Little Light of Mine, you'll see images from past interfaith services, and your generosity will help it to continue. Thank you.
We're going to start in a couple of minutes naming the things that divide us, that divide sometimes even us in this room. And we've chosen the octahedron as the vessel for on which we're going to post our thoughts about what divides us. We chose the octahedron as an example of sacred geometry. Sacred geometry, for those of you who are not familiar, ascribes symbolic and sacred meanings to certain geometric shapes and figures. It's used in the design of religious structures, probably was in the back of the architect's mind for this one. And it's familiar. Sacred geometry first became familiar to us from nature. Think of animals like the chambered nautilus and the bees who build their honeycombs in six-sided form, and the six-sided snowflake. These are all examples of sacred geometry that come from nature. In religion, we see sacred geometry in the mandala, in the Mogen David, in the pentagram. And we see it used in many, many religious circumstances. The most used shapes are circles and triangles and spirals. And the octahedron is one of the 5 Platonic solids that were used in sacred geometry. Strictly speaking, this should be a regular octahedron. All its surfaces should be equilateral triangles. It's not quite there, thanks to the proportions of foam core board that you can buy easily. So this one is made of isosceles triangles. But it is an octahedron, an 8-sided solid. It represents air, and it also represents reflection and compassion and healing. It rests on a point, which signifies the balance of forces. And it is also tied to the heart chakra, which is something we're all attuned with tonight.
Good evening. My name is Susan Peterson, and I'm a lay leader at the St. Andrew's Episcopal Church in West Kent in Norfolk. So we've been talking about things that bring us together, but I want to right now concentrate a little bit on the things that tear us apart. There's so many things that we're all experiencing, but when you look at it, I'm going to go with one right away. Gun violence. It's affecting all of us, and it's tearing us apart. What else is? Give me something else that is tearing us apart. Jessica. Well, there was another Jessica behind you, but I'll go with that one. She's surprised I remembered her name because we used to work together. You said reproductive rights? Do I have one? Do I have one? All right. Jessica?
The word is very carefully, but certainly was used. How many people in this room have been told that they're not a good Christian because they support this
Okay, all right, we got that. Let's see. Daniel.
How we should let translates medically transition? When, how, why?
And attached to that are safe spaces for trans folk in storm shelters. But yes, absolutely, the trans rights. Somebody else. Racism. And with that, critical race theory. Really? Seriously, it's not being taught, but yet we're hearing about it every other day. We need to tell the truth about what's been going on. We cannot hide the truth any longer. I'm going to go with anti-LGBTQA rights and legislation. Right now, I am terrified my rights are going to be taken away from me just because somebody else doesn't like who I love. What else have we got? Jobs. And how about access to affordable health care? Daniel.
Trans-exclusionary radical feminism.
Wow. And I'm going to add to that essential and basic needs for our LGBTQA families. Ma'am.
Not as eloquent as Daniel back there, but book banning.
Oh, yes! We've got one there, already prepared, book banning. Wow. We can't let anybody know about the truth, and we're going to take away the books that tell the truth. When we should be educating our children, not hiding the truth.
I have one. White people who insist they don't have white privilege. Who's arguing about that one?
How about fear of people who are different?
Yes, absolutely.
Us versus them rhetoric.
Yes. Say gay in school. Wow. We never had any kind of education about in kindergarten and third grade about sexuality, but yet we're not allowed to identify any different families. They might have two moms. They might have two dads. What's wrong with that? So as you see, you look at our octahedron here, and one of the problems is you cannot see all of the issues at one time. And yet they all affect us differently and daily. Mark.
There are two more, I think, here that we should add, and there are others. And at home, you may be writing, if you're watching us by live stream, feel free to type in those, and we'll share those later. Voting rights in the electoral process. One of the things that, and Ellen always frowns, Rabbi Ellen always frowns when I say this, the octawhatchamacallit here. But the octawhatchamacallit here, for me, is, as Susan mentioned, none of us can see all of these issues, but yet they exist. And the other thing is that all of us may be more passionate or not about some of those issues, and that's okay. But the awareness is so very important. Recently, you may have heard us talk about that there are 229 faith communities, faith houses of worship of some place or another, some meeting houses, some in grand cathedrals or other places that are going to be at risk over the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years to climate change, sea level rise, and flooding, and that impacts all of us. I don't think this one was mentioned, but about incarceration, discrimination, and treatment in our jails, in particular in our trans and our gender non-binary community. So as we discuss these, and again, this is not a total list, we encourage you to think about those, to challenge ourselves and each other to be aware of how it impacts each of us. And there were several things as we discussed this that seem to be underlying all these things, from abilities to age to gender to race and socioeconomic class and elitism. It seemed to our faith leaders planning this that with all of those, sort of underneath all those, pushing all these up to the surface in our lives, that socioeconomic one, whether it was about race or gender or age or abilities, that socioeconomic factor was such an irritant, but an enabling kind of thing for all the others because they seem to be so much connected. As we hold all of this, we don't want to just stay here talking about what divides us. We want to talk now about that it is important, not necessarily why it's important. Here's the why it's important. It is important that we reclaim our voices. And as we begin to talk about that, at first we were going to say, okay, this is an interfaith gathering. We're going to just talk about reclaiming our spiritual voices. But then I think, Reverend Terry, you were the one that said, you know, I think I've got my spiritual voice, but I don't know about my political voice. And how about our educational voice, or our ecological voice, or our moral voice, or our political voice, all those things. And we're going to talk, just each of us, just a few moments about that. I'm going to start us out about reclaiming our spiritual voice. I said recently that coming out as a person of faith, coming out spiritually in a way, in some ways is like a second coming out. Because so many people have been hurt and pushed away and abused by organized religion across all faiths, especially in our communities. And so how do we reclaim, because some people don't even have anything to do with organized religion or anything like that. And I think about, and I've told this story a number of times, but I think you'll see why I keep telling it. A few years ago, my husband and I were down at the oceanfront, and this street preacher pushed a pamphlet in my hand and said, "Do you know Jesus?" And I looked at him, and I took the pamphlet, and I took his hand, and I said, "I am an openly gay Christian pastor, and yes, I know the love of God." And he's pulling back, and I'm not letting go. And finally, I did, and Alberta said, "Why did you keep doing that?" I said, "Because he's going to lay awake all night tonight wondering if this is contagious." And we know that being LGBTQAI+ is not contagious, but I'll tell you what is contagious. The love, the hope, and the peace and joy that we find from finding our spiritual voices, no matter across all of our faiths, that should be contagious to all of us. Amen. And there are several reasons that it's important for us to reclaim that, because that, I think, connects us with the source of the love, the joy, and the peace that helps us get through the tough times. And I don't think any of us would disagree. This is some pretty tough times with some pretty tough issues that we're facing. And so staying connected to these, not only to that source, but also to one another. It reminds us that every single person is a person of worth. In my faith tradition, we believe that we are created in the image of the divine. And I don't think, when I look in the mirror, I don't see the face of the divine. Although, you know, hair and makeup does help a lot these days with virtually. But I think spiritually, and years ago, I was at a church at the main entrance to Quantico Marine Base, and it says in the sign in the Marine Corps base, this is the crossroads of the Corps. And so our spirituality, I think, is that crossroads where the divine meets us in our souls. And it's so important for us to reclaim that spiritual voice that we have, or maybe we're just discovering it the first time, because, You know, those that are on the opposite sides and trying to condemn us and, spouting hatred, acting in hateful and violent, murderous kind of ways. They don't even believe that it's possible for someone who's LGBTQAI+ to have a spirituality. But there are also those that are enabling and empowering those who have that hatred that are coming from organized religion and from organized faith. And so it's important for us as people of faith to say, hey, that's not my faith, but I have a faith and I have a spirituality. So I encourage us to consider how important that is for all of us. Next, you're going to hear from Reverend Viola Abbott, who is from Coastal Virginia Unitarian Universalist Church. Reverend Viola is not with us, but has sent a video. She's on the West Coast at a church conference, and so I call your attention to the video screen and Reverend Viola.
It is so important for each of us to reclaim our political voice. And for some of us, it may mean claiming that voice for the first time ever. We need to remember that there are so many people who have been and continue to be denied a political voice. Because to have and use a political voice is one of the most powerful things that any one of us can do. You may believe in the existence of a divine or an infinite power that has created the universe and all of the things in it. And you may also believe that that same power has the ability to convey blessings upon us. But whether or not you believe in such a power, the one power that you should believe in is the power that resides within each of us. And by claiming and reclaiming the political voice that each one of us has, to name and change the wrongs that exist in the world is one way that we can exercise that power. By voting and by speaking up for what is good and true is the one sure way that we can bless each other and the world.
I'm going to speak about education, about raising our voices about education. Before I was a Jewish professional, I taught English in Los Angeles secondary schools for 14 years. My public school career began in the mid-'80s, and queer issues didn't come up much in the classroom. But I taught through the height of the AIDS crisis, and I belonged to a synagogue that was geared toward the LGBT+ community. And the problems of that community were much on my mind. Teachers who were fired or hounded out of schools for being gay were in the news a lot back then. And in 1994, I published a novel for middle school kids about a gay teacher who's outed at a suburban junior high school. I always kept books around for kids to read for pleasure, and one day, a couple of years later, a 7th grader asked if he could borrow the novel I had written. And after that, I was accused of requiring students to read my book. The boy's father, a pastor, had seen the novel in his son's bedroom and asked him what he was doing with such a book. And the boy, not wanting to be punished, lied and said I had assigned the entire class to read it, and if he didn't, I would fail him in English. I told the principal, who hauled me into her office, that the student had fabricated that story to keep from his father that he was reading it because he wanted to. I had thought by then about leaving public school teaching, but that was the day I went home knowing it was time to leave a profession that I loved. That incident is the one contact point I share with the teachers who are being attacked today from above and below, from the front and in the back, by students, parents, school administrators, school board members, and government officials for having the temerity to teach children the truth about their nation's history and the society they live in today. Millions of people involved in education in this country cannot face the reality that much of the United States was built on the backs of people of color, people who were enslaved or torn from their ancestral lands or deported when they were perceived as no longer needed. They cannot feature an America in which queer people can marry, rear children, live wherever they want, and in many cases work in the careers of their choice. They deny that discriminatory practices against people who don't look or live like them exist, and they become enraged by the idea that those people have voices that must be heard. I left teaching almost 25 years ago, in part because of one encounter with one bigoted parent. I can't even imagine what it's like now for teachers who either suffer perpetual spiritual heartburn from swallowing the truth every day, or who risk their livelihoods telling the truth to their students. Having started teacher training 40 years ago in order to become a counter-revolutionary in the Reagan Revolution, I stand with my former colleagues now, and so should we all. Whether or not we have students in our lives, school-aged children in our lives, we must raise our voices to our school board members and state legislators, informing them that we will not vote for people who would hide the truth from students. And we must raise our voices empathetically, with love, to the parents and relatives of today's students. Otherwise, the leaders of the future will be guided by ignorance of what happened in America's past and what is happening in America today.
Before we gathered this evening, we received word that one of our faith leaders was unable to attend this evening because her spouse was in the ER again and ill. And she was going to talk to you about our economic voices. And the truth of the matter is we are all in this together. Right now, we're all suffering with $5 a gallon gas, with rent rates that are going out of this world. And personally, I got to tell you, I was this close to being homeless because my landlord threw me out and I couldn't find a place to live because they wanted so much. We're all suffering from the cost of food going up, the cost of everything, all of our consumer goods. And we need to be mindful of those who are not able or having trouble. I'm seeing more and more often signs out in front of of places of worship that say free food, free clothing. And I look at the lines and I'm marveled at them, because here are people that are asking for help that have never had to ask for help before. And some of them don't know how to do it. We need to be mindful of those who need help and not show them shame, but instead to reach out our hand and say, here, I have one extra. Maybe this will help you. Thank you.
I'm Reverend Jim Whalen. I'm on staff at New Life Metropolitan Community Church. And I'm up here to speak about the ecological issues that we face. And in thinking over those issues, I became really overwhelmed. I mean, there are so many things that we face, that we're challenged by, that could be disastrous in our near future. Reverend Mark talked about the number of houses of faith that are going to be prone to flooding in the near future. And that doesn't even count the number of homes and businesses that are also going to be flooding with the oceans rising. I read an article the other day about, for the very first time, microscopic plastic nano pieces of plastic have been found in a mammal's bloodstream. That's a scary thought. The rainforests, which I've read have been described as the lungs of the earth, are being chopped down exponentially, disappearing. And that's just naming just a very small piece of what's going on in our ecology and our environment. And I became so overwhelmed trying to put together the words to speak to you tonight that I just couldn't speak. I couldn't think of what to say. And so I looked at some other people's voices, things that have been written, and I ran across this poem by Wendy Evans. It's called A Wonderful Yesterday. Mother Earth, she weeps, but her tears are all in vain. Men and women who seek profit and power will never feel guilt nor shame. What is happening to our world? Wake up and see what we have done. The pollution that fills our air is now blocking out the sun. We carelessly chop down trees at such an alarming rate. Nothing left to purify our air. Is our existence left to fate? Who will pollinate our plants when we kill off all the bees? What will be left of our oceans when we contaminate completely all our seas? Majestic animals that share our world, we track them down to kill, not for any particular purpose. They hunt them just for thrill. Beautiful beasts that once roamed our lands free, reduced to decomposing carcasses, hunted for a fee. Our marine life is being poisoned by all our toxic waste. Plastic dumps in mass for all our fish to taste. Mountains of our garbage in our oceans we do store. Then watch in silence as the blood-drenched waves break angrily on the shore. And with it all the decaying corpses from once an abundant sea of the living, a sea that kept us fed, a sea that kept on giving. Without all these things we cannot survive. Each link has a purpose in the circle of life, and they keep us alive. Our planet is our mother. We live within her womb. She provides for all life. Let's not make her a tomb. The earth is one thing in which every one of us, each of us, has a mutual interest. It's the one thing that we all share. our earth, our environment, is no one's property to destroy. It's everyone's responsibility to protect. Tonight, I challenge each of us to educate ourselves to the problems that are causing climate change, to the issues underlying the issues that we've been speaking of. I challenge each of us to do what we can in our own daily lives to lessen our individual negative impact on our environment and to raise our individual and collective voice where and when we can to protect the planet that sustains us and provides us with everything under the sun.
When the leaders started planning this and we started talking about the different voices that we wanted to reclaim or to claim, the voice that struck out to me most was our ethical voice. As a nurse, I see ethical dilemmas sadly every day. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. Life support isn't just, there for everything, because whether it be someone who has a very poor prognosis doesn't mean we can keep them, because we don't know what they would want. But would they want to live in that state where they don't have any decisions that they can make anymore? They can't make the decisions for themselves anymore. We have to think about, is that the right thing for them? Not for us, but for them, because they can't make those decisions anymore. When we think about our ethical voices, we want to think about how we're respecting every person's dignity, but also their diversity. There's the many of us that are in here, we all come from different faith backgrounds, but we also come from different ethnic backgrounds. We come from all across this world. So respecting those things, as the picture falls in front of me, respecting those things, but also respecting everyone's right to individuality. We're all individuals. And whatever faith tradition you believe in, we all come from those divine people. But also, we have to make sure that as we reclaim those ethical voices that we've had, whether we've had them from years and years ago or we're claiming them for the first time, part of that is being accountable to ourselves, like holding ourselves to that ethical voice and holding others who have like minds to their ethical voices. It's not just me, it's all of us. As Susan said, we're all in this together. We have one earth. So we're all here together to reclaim whatever voice. Give it back to Susan.
When did it become acceptable to enter schools and kill innocent children? Or to enter a movie theater and kill patrons watching a movie? When did churches and other houses of worship become shooting galleries? When did it become acceptable to break windows and steal contents of stores? When did we forget the difference between right and wrong? Can we all agree that killing and stealing is wrong? Can we also agree that it's important to tell the truth and to take responsibility for our actions? These societal norms usually unite us. But recently, however, in many areas of society, killing and stealing have become normalized. As children, we were taught to treat others as you want to be treated, to be loyal, to respect others. In the Judeo-Christian traditions, we have the 10 Commandments to guide our behavior. Thou shalt not kill, you shall not steal, you shall honor your mother and father. Our morality is driven from our personal belief, our belief systems, but most all of us agree on what is right and wrong. So what caused this shift in behavior? Why are mass shootings on the rise? Why do some of us think that it's acceptable to steal from one another? Why is it okay to knock someone down and beat them up just because of the color of their skin? We must take back our moral voices. We must speak up when we see something wrong. We must advocate for ourselves and for each other. We must become a kinder nation, kinder people, kinder to one another. So what I'd like you to do now, if you would please, is rise up with us. Because together we want to reclaim our voices and to commit to being seen, speaking up, and getting involved and taking action. We have so many times heard the phrase about our thoughts and our prayers. And I'd like you to just take a moment to reflect on this before we actually sing this. The last verse of this song is, "Oh, may our prayers and dreams and songs lead to a faith that takes on wrongs, that works for peace and justice too. Then will our prayers bring joy to you." Scott.
I think it was, you may be seated for just a moment. You thought you were going home to eat supper. That'll be after the third or fourth offering tonight. I think it was Robert Louis Stevenson who said, "I have been to church and I am not depressed."
Amen.
Well, after what I've heard tonight, I don't know about you. Maybe we feel, and I wrote and shared some of this earlier this week, maybe we feel tired. Do you feel tired? Do you feel exhausted? Numb? Horrified? Angry? Overwhelmed? Beyond frustrated? At a loss for words? Inept? Feeling powerless? Depressed? Oppressed? And just wishing it would all go away. Perhaps all of us have felt this at one time or another. On any given time, and any given day. I don't know about you, I feel like I'm a roller coaster. I don't keep the news on all day anymore for that very reason, because I'm just there so much of the time. From gun violence and what we've heard tonight, can I say it one more time, Ellen, on the whatchamacallit back here? And I said something earlier I want to correct. I said this is the why. This is not the why. This is the issues. You and others in our communities are the why. That's why it's important for us to reclaim our voices. We've heard about gun violence, to total disregard for women's reproductive rights, not to mention everyone's voting rights. From renewed efforts to legislate hate and discrimination, to banning books about and which include us. From refusing to tell the truth about history to pretending we don't exist and threatening anyone who dares, say it with me, say gay. I didn't hear you. Can you say it again? Yay! None of us can afford to stay out of the fray, for if we do, surely there will be hell to pay. We need somehow to help each other find hope, love, strength, and courage, shaking off the fear, disbelief, and dismay, come what may, from Washington to Richmond to our 7 cities here by the bay. It's time to do more than just send thoughts and pray. We must reclaim our individual and collective voices forthwith and without delay. It's time for each of us to be seen, speak up, get involved, and take action. And so tonight, the Hampton Roads LGBTQAI+ interfaith group, may we challenge ourselves not to lose hope, because you may be the very hope that someone else needs to. And I think it was St. Francis of Assisi said, preach the good news, and if necessary, use words. And we realize that saying to reclaim our voices may come across as sounding ableist in some ways, but there are many ways for us to speak. And sometimes it's just being present with each other in community. I can't tell you the number of times when someone's been dying or gone through whatever, and I haven't done anything except just be there. And they'll say, thank you. I don't know how to make it out. I didn't do anything except be there. We need to be there for each other. So I want you to first whisper this with me. I want you to look at your program. And I want you to say, I've got a spiritual voice. Say it a little bit louder. A little bit louder now. A little bit louder now. What's that movie that was? A little bit louder now. That's one of those Broadway shows. I like that one. Was it Animal House? It was, wasn't it? Oh my goodness. First R-rated movie I ever saw. Our spiritual voices. I've got a spiritual voice. Shout it out. I've got a spiritual voice. I've got a political voice. I've got an educational voice. I've got an economic voice. I've got an ecological voice. I've got an ethical voice. I've got a moral voice. And I want you to rise as you're able. And I want you to look to one of your neighbors. If you're at home joining us on live stream, type in a comment and just say, we're not going to lose hope. Say it a little bit louder now. A little bit louder now. As we leave this place and this gathering, know that hope and love and peace and joy can still exist in the face of hatred, in the face of violence, Love will win, and that should be our message every day, all day. Blessings upon you for being here tonight.